This podcast is brought to you by PodPro Australia.
Social media, Google, email marketing, systems, website traffic, and the endless content creation that comes with marketing. It's overwhelming, right? Say goodbye to endless stress and hello to clarity with the Meaningful Marketing Podcast. In this podcast, I will share with you fast and free practical methods to help you manage, monetize, and market your business, all infused with a healthy dose of motivation. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Marketing Podcast. Today I've got the lovely Damien here all the way from Brisbane.
G'day.
Down on the Gold Coast. So Damien is a business coach, he's an entrepreneur, he's a public speaker, multiple business owner, and I'm so excited to have him here today to talk to him about his unique, meaningful method to run businesses and handle marketing. So good to have you here, Damien, today.
My absolute pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about your story. The very beginning of Little Damo.
Well, I grew up in western suburbs of Sydney, single mum, 4 kids kind of situation, so don't come from any money. And then I ran away and joined the army. I was in the army for 14 years, and then I left the army and I went into business for myself. And I've done a whole 15 years now, and I've done a whole heap of different things. Some businesses very successful and some spectacularly collapsing, and so I've been through the trenches of the army and the trenches of business as well. Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, that's good. So share for us a little bit about how you got into business after the army. Like, what was the journey of that for you?
I think for me, I was always pretty driven and ambitious about making my life meaningful and successful. And the army was a great start for a kid who came from nothing, because you get paid, you get trained, you get a lot of experience very early in life. And so then after I did my time in the army, I really wanted to get into business because I wanted to be self-employed. I wanted to grow something meaningful and have the freedom that being self-employed can give you, and also the rewards, which I think is why everyone goes into business for themselves, is more time, more money, more control, right? And then, of course, most of us get smacked in the face with the reality of that, and it's not necessarily that easy. And then I kind of liken it to a boxing career. You have to sort of get knocked out a couple of times if you want to win the belt. And yeah, so that's why I went in. I did work for someone else very briefly, and I intended to work for them for a few years. But then when I sort of got inside that business, there was a lot of unethical things that I was not comfortable with. So I decided to leave early and start my own business. So, yeah.
So tell us about the spectacular failures, because everyone gets into business and they think it's just going to all be roses, and it's a lot of up and downs, a lot of challenges and a lot of learning. So share with us some of those.
Yeah, I think, and I'm quite open about my failures, because I think that's where I can actually do the most good, is helping people to learn from my mistakes, so they don't have to make those mistakes themselves. But I've done a whole heap of things. I think at the very start, the first business failure I had is I went into business with family and with a family member. And what I discovered is, people say never go into business with friends and family. And people don't understand why that is. And I think it's a lazy recruiting thing where you go, well, I trust my family, I trust my friends, so they won't let me down. But then what happens is their expectation is that you will cut them some slack, you won't yell at them, and then what ends up happening is they end up underperforming and making mistakes, and then you can't fire them because they're your friend. And then, as I say to people now, the fastest way to lose a friendship is to go into business with that person. So that was one of my first things, and that was a landscaping company. And basically I dropped probably $100,000 into that, and before I had to cut it. And then that family member was like, well, why are you giving up? And I'm like, well, you're not putting any money in. I'm the money man. And so that was a hard lesson learnt. And I think one of the problems that I've perhaps suffered from is being just too optimistic and saying, we'll work it out as we go. No, you need a plan. You need an actual plan. You need to be sure that what you're about to embark upon is viable and is actually going to work. So that's one example. I've had my most successful business is actually in its second version, because despite it being so successful, we had a company that we'd done a lot of work with. They owed us a lot of money and they went under. And then so through no fault of our own, we ended up going into contraction and ultimately 2 years later being forced to go under ourselves, which was really, really painful, very embarrassing, very painful and very stressful. And I think that, people should not underestimate how challenging business can be. And when that company went under, it also took down a couple of other things, other businesses that I had started, and I was subsidising them until they were profitable. But because the first business then got in trouble, then that flowed through. And I think one of my key messages for people is, if you are not absolutely certain that it's a viable business, do not start it. Do not just go in with hope and optimism and, I'll find a way. You might not, and you might lose your house, you might lose all of your savings and things like that. So be very, very careful in the first place what you go into. I wouldn't discourage anyone from going into business. Definitely go into business. Just make sure you're going into something that's going to work.
And I think the lesson here as well is that shit does hit the fan, like when you're running a business, and it's unexpected shit. So even with a plan, there is going to be a roller coaster ride of ups and downs and unexpected things. They are going to be learnings. And like with yourself, you could have stayed knocked down, but you didn't. You got back up again and you kept punching through, right?
Yeah, I did. And a lot of my friends call me Mr. Resilience, but I think I've also just got a bit of a healthy ego as well. And someone said to me once, you only fail when you quit. And I'm like, okay, well, and if in hindsight now, my only regret is that I didn't get back on the horse faster. I probably spent a bit too much time just sort of sobbing and feeling sorry for myself and playing small. Whereas when things go wrong, and I really enjoy helping other business people now, and what I say to them is, look, when things go wrong, it's usually a lot went right, and there was only one or two things that actually went wrong. But often people will jettison the entire idea because that doesn't work. And so it's really important, and not just in business, but in relationships, in anything in your life that goes wrong, it's really important that you just stop and think, well, what went right? And what was the actual, and it was probably only one or two things that pulled the pin out and the whole thing fell as a result. And it's important that you don't, waste all of that other experience and knowledge that you acquired and get back on the horse as fast as possible. Most people, they get very embarrassed and they're worried about what other people think. And then one of my mentors said to me, don't worry about what other people think of you, because they're not thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves. And any comments they make about you, they're actually referencing to themselves.
Yeah.
They're trying to put you down so they feel better themselves. They're trying to call you a failure so they can call themselves a success. And when I thought about that, I thought that's true. And that same person said to me, no one more successful than you will ever put you down.
Yeah, nice.
And I was like,
Okay.
that's interesting.
So there's a couple of lessons in that. And the first thing is, I always say, allow yourself a 2-minute tanty. Okay, a 2-minute tantrum, go for gold, but then pick yourself up and get back on the horse as quickly as possible. Super, super, super important. So thanks for sharing that with us. You spoke about, there's one little thing that might be wrong in something. And I see this a lot when it comes to people's marketing. They have our entire marketing funnel and a business and a plan, and they're getting on with it. And suddenly it's not working. So say, for example, something's not converting and they go, that's it, I'm going to do a rebrand.
Right.
I'm going to change my logo, change my business name, change my offer, change everything. And I'm like, oh my God, stop. Literally, there is probably one thing inside that whole strategy or plan where there's a kink that needs to be fixed, and yet they go throw everything and want to start all right back at the beginning again.
Yeah.
I love it when you said that.
Yeah, no, it's a very valuable point with marketing, and marketing, is a funnel, or it's a straw, it's a stepping stone path, and all you need is one of those stepping stones to break, and the flow will stop, right? And so often that point is very valid. It's only that one little blockage, and you clear that. Everything else is fine. Just clear that blockage, and then the leads will flow.
And sometimes, when you're inside the jar, you can't read the label. And this is why working with coaches is, absolutely fundamental. I mean, I've got like a coach for everything. A coach for everything. Okay, so let's talk about some of your meaningful marketing strategies that you apply inside your own businesses currently.
Okay, so a bit of this is, like, my answer to this is really just like a marketing 101 answer. Marketing's actually not that hard if you just focus on the customer and what they want. And I think the first thing is to get very clear about what your product is and who it best helps. So who is the ideal customer for your product? I think you start with what you do, because that's what you're good at, whatever it is, a product or service, and then go, who's the ideal customer for my product? I think people they go, oh, who's my avatar? But actually, you think about the product first, then think about who the ideal customer is. And you probably already have a couple of them already. And think about your customers you have now, and that it's really easy and they love it and they buy lots of it. And then go, okay, that's my ideal person. Then spend a lot of time defining who that person is and your ideal customer. Where do they live? How old are they? What social media platforms do they consume the most? Like, if they're really young, they're probably on TikTok. If they're old, they're probably on Facebook. And so okay, where am I going to get in front of those people? But then the clear stuff is, don't think about like yourself and your product just yet. Think about them and what problem they have. And a great example for us is with my property investment company, is that most people are just thinking about buying their own home and paying it off, right? And they're not thinking about buying investment property. And actually, one of the strategies to pay your house off faster is actually not to pay it off initially and put all your spare money into buying 2 or 3 investment properties, then have the 2 or 3 investment properties go up in value and use that money to pay your house off, rather than working a job, being a wage slave and chipping away at your mortgage, right? So this is the number one strategy. But the problem is, to bring it back to marketing, no one thinks that way, right? So I could go and advertise a property investment seminar, and most of those people who I just want to buy my own home and pay it off, they're not even thinking that way, right? So what you've got to do is you've got to think about the mindset that your ideal customer's in before they've met you, before they're enlightened, and find a problem that they have. And so we talk about how to get your own home, how to get a property without using any of your own money, all these different strategies. And they turn up for that. And while they're there, I throw in a few other things. I go, here's a different strategy you may not have thought of, and then educate them through the marketing process, either through the books that we write or the seminars that we conduct. And then at the end of it, and then they draw that conclusion on their own. I was thinking this, but actually, and then they come to you and go, actually, I want to do that now. And you've just indirectly educated them, and then they've made a decision that's what they want to do, which is much better than having a pushy salesperson trying to force
100%
the product on them.
So it comes back to, again, connecting with your audience, really understanding who they are so you can effectively communicate to them. And then it's about offering them consumable content that's going to support them and educate them so that they build know, like, and trust with you, and you increase your credibility with them so you become the go-to person. So the way you're doing that is through your seminars, which I've had the privilege of sitting in on, actually in person behind you while you're kind of doing it. Yeah. And it's the webinar funnel, right? And the webinar funnel is a great way to be able to do that. And you run these webinar funnels quite regularly, don't you?
Every week.
Yep.
Unless I'm on holidays, but I run 1 or 2 a week.
Yep.
Religiously. And that's my heavy lifting in that business. A bit like going to the gym, and a great person who I don't know who they are once said, show me your marketing calendar and I will show you your cash flow.
Yeah.
And it was very insightful, because all your business starts with your marketing. So if you want to be fit, consistently go to the gym. If you want your business to be fit, consistently market. Right?
Yeah.
I knew you'd like that one. Every week you have to be doing something, and you can't turn your ads on and off. They've got to always be on. You can't turn your email marketing on and off. You've got to achieve that consistency. Yeah. And then when you achieve that consistency, you'll achieve recency and frequency in the eyes of your prospects, and then they'll start identifying and knowing your brand and start turning up. So that's what I do, and I give the webinar. There's about 30 people work for that company now, But the one thing that I do, well, two things. One is I chair the weekly company management meeting, and the other is I do the webinar. And now but I started that business in the spare bedroom of my house on my own. And now it's 30 people and it basically runs itself.
Yeah. So I do want to put a little bit of a disclaimer in there because everyone knows how I feel about paid advertising. So if it's not working organically first, do not spend money on ads.
Yeah.
And my second thing is, I don't know if you can agree, but unless you're a six-figure business, you shouldn't be doing ads yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my fundamentals there.
No, look, I think when you're starting a business and you're short on cash, you're not short on time.
100%. Get the foundations right. Invest in yourself.
Yeah, and there is a lot of marketing you can do by spending your time on it, right? And so, but every strategy requires resources, whether it be your time or your money or your energy or stress or whatever. And so, but I agree with you. I don't think you should be trying any paid advertising until you've got all the free stuff sorted, because you never know. Like, then there are people, particularly with viral content and things like that, people can create just one good piece of content that goes viral and their business skyrockets and they don't have to spend a cent on advertising. And then, of course, there's referrals as well and repeat business of the clients you've got. And so, yeah, like, you don't need to have lots of money. We do spend on ads, but we do everything else as well.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I just get really worried because a lot of people go, I don't have any time. I don't have time to do my marketing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do ads. And then they only want to put $10 on something and they don't even have a proper funnel in place. They're not capturing emails. And that's my other thing. If you don't have a way to capture email addresses, don't do ads.
Right.
You've got to be able to capture email addresses so you can retarget and, follow the funnel is what I like to say, or follow through with the funnel. So thank you so much for that. So I want to touch, because you've got an amazing method that you use with your business coaching. And it's something that you've developed from the army. Okay, it's a takeaway from the army. It's a method that you have. I'm very intrigued by it. You often present on it. I've heard you present on it as a public speaker. So share that with us and enlighten our audience.
So I have this belief about business. Everyone wants to win the lottery. Everyone would love to win $10 million, $20 million. If you're in business for yourself, you can engineer that win, right, by building your business up. But to build your business up, you can't do it on your own. I think someone working on their own without any sort of employees or software or machines or people working for them, you're only going to get so far. You might even get to $1 million revenue a year as an individual, but you're not going to go beyond that because one person's productivity is only worth so much, right? So you have to grow your business. And if you want to grow a business, the military's actually been running, like the Australian Army is a small army. It's got 30,000 people in it. How do they do it? And there's a lot of things that they do and I've taken from the military and I put into business. So the first thing that they do really, really well is career streaming. So they'll actually create a career and you'll join the army and they'll say, you are a rifleman. And then you go, what's that? And they go, well, you're in the infantry and here's your career path and you'll start here as a private and you'll do these courses and then you'll go into a section and you'll be in a section for a year or two. And then if you're good enough, you'll get selected for promotion training and then you'll go do the promotion courses or specialist courses. Then you'll go over to a specialist role for a while and then you'll come back to the rifle company and you'll be a section commander and then and they just spell it all out. And see, the brilliance of that is 99% of people have no plan for themselves in their career. They're just going from opportunity to opportunity and whatever opportunity is put in front of them, they go, is this better than where I am now? And they go to that opportunity. But the military says, no, you can spend your whole life here. We've got it all worked out for you and this is the model we want. But that model also serves the military because they need to grow their own leaders. They need to grow your capabilities. And so that's what they do. So what I try and do in each of my businesses is create a career stream. So in my property investment company, for example, there are 3 career streams. There's actually 4, but there's the marketing career stream, marketing manager career stream, which is in all of my, and those people can jump around between all of my companies. Then there's property investment consultants, there's property investment administrators, and there's property investment operators, right? And there's 3 different streams. And the administrators are generally Filipino staff who are learning the back end and all the admin processing tasks and things like that. and then the consultants are the strategists, and they're giving advice, property investment advice, and building plans and getting things done for clients. And then the operators are the back end of the business. They're usually Australian staff who are delivering what is being sold by the consultants. So the consultants might get a great property for a client, and then once it's all set, the deal's done, they then hand it over to operations, and operations will support that client journey to deliver that property and all the supporting services around it. So when someone comes to my company, I say to them, you have a career here. And there are 4 or 5 levels: trainee, junior, senior, manager, and senior manager, right? And we show them what jobs they can do in the company, and they go, fantastic. And then they then conclude, I have a future here. I have a left and right of arc. I have a lane. I have the stepping stones, and I know what I have to do if I want to succeed. And most businesses have nothing like that at all, right? And the problem is that if you don't provide a future for your person in your company, they're going to stay for a while and then they're going to leave.
Yeah, wow.
Right? Because if they have any drive and ambition, right, they're going to go, well, I've done everything I can here. What's next? And they'll go look for it, and they may not be able to go up, but they'll go sideways to something different. And a lot of companies have a high turnovers. Usually why? Because they're not painting a picture, a career progression picture. So that's the first thing.
So before we move on to the next thing, I just want to go back a little bit here and talk about something. So we'll clarify something. So it's about having the right people in the right seats.
Yes.
And often when I see people going and trying to get virtual assistants or getting somebody to support them in their business, they try to get a Jack or Jill of all trades and try to fit them into everything. They go, right, this is going to be the marketing person, the administrator person, and this is going to be, the graphic designer, plus they're going to be the website analytical person. They're completely different types of people. So 100%. The right person in the right seat. The other thing I heard from you there, which is really important, is that they've actually got to upskill. So in order to move and get through, on the career path, they actually have to invest in some of their training as well. And again, this is something that when people outsource to virtual assistants or get team members in, they just go, I'm paying you for a job. You just need to know how to do this job because on your resume it said you know how to do this. I just want you to go do that. But people have actually got to train inside their job. A lot of them are implementers. They might have low-level experience. It doesn't mean they're not capable or competent, but they do need some training. They need a strategy and they need training. And that was the other thing I took away from that, is that your strategist and your implementers are completely different people. They are different. They are not the same person. So I see it on social media all the time when they go, I've had so many virtual assistants and none of them worked as a strategist. And I'm like, they're not strategists, they're implementers. So really important. So I love the way that you broke that up and you made that clear. So chat to us about number 2.
So, and you just mentioned it was a good segue, is training. So once you've got the career model worked out and you say, okay, when someone comes to work for me on day one, we don't want to throw them in the deep end because they'll probably fail. So we have a trainee sort of cadetship, whatever role, junior team member role, and then you can build training. Now, the military has done training really well. And when I first got into business, I really envied the military, but they had big bases with training schools and instructors posted there full time. And I'm like, we'll never be able to do that. But the whole game has changed for us in business now with these learning management systems where you can basically build an online course actually very easily. And there's a whole heap of different platforms you can use. And I think you've got a platform that...
Yeah, we use OBM Hub.
Yeah, and you can build some online training and things like that in there. But it's really simple. And all you do is just create a list of all the tasks that you want that person to do. And then just do like a Google Meet or a Teams meeting with yourself, share your screen and record it. And then go, this is how you SOP 101, this is how you enter someone in the database. Go to this website, hit this button, put in this login, click that, file, enter the data, hit save, done. And then take that video recording and save it in a folder and rename it how to enter someone in a database. And then get an online course, learning management system, and create it, induction course for my business, or whatever, leadership course, whatever. And you build these staff training courses. And the beauty of that is quite amazing when you think about it, because then you only ever have to teach someone how to do that task once. And thereafter, that recording goes into your online course, and the everyone who joins your company can do the induction course. So we are now up to 15 training online courses for staff training alone, internal training, and they're all in various stages of development. Probably about 8 of them are fully developed and implemented, and then the other 7 are in the process of building now. And all you do is you just say, okay, well, yeah, I want an induction course, I want a team leaders course, whatever it is you want, anyone in a particular part of your business. And you can do it not just on a screen, you can grab an iPhone, and if it's machinery in the factory, you stand in front of the machine while someone films you and go, this is how you operate the what's it machine, and build it, and it's extremely pivotal. So I have, once a week, I have a meeting with my training manager who runs all this, but you don't need a training manager when you're small, you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
And but we have delivered 5,500 and something hours now of training, staff training, online.
And you only have to do it once. So this is the whole thing. So I always say to the business owners and the virtual assistants that I work with, slow down in the beginning to go faster at the end.
100%.
Because you only do it once. So I'm currently just working with a business owner and virtual assistant, and they've just gotten rid of one of their marketing managers, and none of the SOPs have been recorded. So it does not, when you are training that initial person when they come on, just record that session. And from the beginning, like my virtual assistants all know, and the virtual assistants I train all know that when I give them a task, they have to write out an SOP, and it's got to be added to the SOP folder. And whenever I say add that to the SOP, they've got to go and update that folder as well. So that is, from the beginning, I set that so that if they get hit by a bus, straight away somebody else can pick up that document and be able to take over.
100%. And you know, something which is absolute, like when I worked this out, it was brilliant. A lot of people know they should have SOPs, but they don't write them. And so actually you can start with the training before you write the SOP. So you might just get some, hey, video me while I explain to you how to do this. And then they do that, and then say, great, make that video a training video, but then I want you to write an SOP using that video. So the training video comes first, the SOP comes second. If you've already got your SOPs, then you can task someone to create a training video on the SOP. But either way, you've got a manual and you've got a video for every task in the business. The other reason why it's so exceptionally important is because when you go to sell your business later, it is extremely valuable for the purchaser of that business to go, oh, wait, so there are online training courses about how to do everything in this business? Yes. Shut up and take my money.
Love it, love it. Damien, I absolutely love that. One of the most important things I always say to people to consider is that when they're selling their business, that they have assets. And the training manuals, as you said, those are assets within the business, but also an email marketing list. So having a leads list, having funnels in place, all is going to increase the value of your business when you sell it. And of course, you know, having good employees that want to stay because you've put them on a career path, right? So let's take it back to the marketing then, and tell us a little bit about the military marketing method.
Well, I think the military marketing, what is marketing? At the end of the day, it's finding what you're looking for. What do you want? So you want customers. So the military, how does it operate? It goes to find the enemy, right? So what does it do? It sends out patrols out and all different forms of surveillance, electronic surveillance, aircraft in the sky, camouflage dudes walking through sneaking up on the enemy, things like that. So you look at your marketing as that, like how are we going to find and attract, like where are they? And you spend some time first in theory thinking about, like, where are they? Where are my customers? And going on a reconnaissance if you have to. Maybe even get in your car and go and find them. And once you work out, remember, so product, and then who's the ideal customer for my product? Because if I know what my product can do, so if I find the right person, they're going to want it. And then where are they? And then go looking for them. And then you're constantly seeking to communicate with them. And there's research now that says, you know, people have to see your brand like more than 20 times before they trust it, before they see that it's a real thing, you know, because there is a lot of crap that sort of goes out there, marketing that, and I often say to my team, like, I say, look, just when you see a competitor's advertising, don't assume that it's working because, we see some and they've only got like a couple of likes on their posts and things like that. And then ours, we've got like 100 comments and, 500 likes. And we're like, I'm pretty sure ours is working and theirs isn't. The other thing I think is the team's approach. And marketing is a multidisciplinary team, right? And to get marketing done, you need a video editor. A video editor is a very different person to a graphic artist. And a graphic artist is a very different person to a writer, who's writing your blogs and your email marketing and things like that. So there's those core disciplines. But then I think you also need the scientists now with your digital marketing. You need to be testing and measuring. You need to be looking at, okay, how many people are clicking on this, and then what's the click-through rate, and what's the conversion rate of the landing page, and then doing split testing, of everything. And someone actually has to be a bit nerdy like that. And it's like, I just changed the headline and it converted at 50% the rate. You want someone who gets excited about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's incredibly valuable as well. And when you understand that it's a conversion algorithm, right? And if you can double the effectiveness of an ad, you'll double the sales at the other end of your process. And so that stuff is quite important. So when it comes to building your marketing team, it's a bit like the A-Team, like the old TV show. And you got the different specialists, but then you need that leader who brings them all together, and they're kind of like the marketing project manager. And that's what I really like about what you do. And you come in and you help people with that to bring it all together, and then also help them to teach themselves and their marketing manager, if they've got one, how to do it. But I think one of the biggest challenges that Australian businesses have is the cost of Australian wages. And most people are onto this outsourcing to the Philippines thing. I've got about 15 Filipinos who work for me, and I love them all. But there's different things that they can do, and culturally, they're very good, they're very loyal, very hardworking, and they'll get stuff done. Their English is a little bit different to ours. It's Americanized a bit, but they tend to write and talk in shorter sentences. Whereas so they're not that great at copywriting and emails and stuff like that. And so then you might need an Australian. But then I conned on to something that's close to your heart, South Africans, right?
Once you go South African, you won't go back.
Yeah, and I went to live in South Africa for a while, and you know this story. But, I went to live there for a while, and then I come across, wow, I can actually have South Africans working for me from there. And English is their first language. Their education standards just as good as Australians. Their work ethic's probably better, to be honest. Like, let's be honest about the average Aussie is not really, doesn't like to work too hard, And we do have that tall poppy syndrome, and we also have that sort of slow down mate syndrome, let's call it, where if one person's working very hard, the rest of the Aussies will go, hey mate, you're making us all look bad. Slow down. Meanwhile, the South Africans are like, get out of my way, I'm going to get stuff done. And so I started employing South Africans, and in my own businesses first, working remotely from there. And you pay less than half what you have to pay in Australian wages, because unfortunately for them, the economy, as you know, the economy is a bit stuffed over there. Yeah. But you can get some incredibly good things. And that's when I thought, geez, I'm going to help other people do this. So that's when I started my second company, Smart Workforce Solutions. And that's what we do now for them. And the primary roles that we recruit South Africans for are marketing roles. That's number one. And executive assistants are the primary roles that we have South Africans. But I also have them doing training management. My head of accounts is a South African. What else have I got in there? Operations manager jobs as well, where you have to kind of, be proactive and do research and get stuff done and work unsupervised, and the South Africans are great for that. So just give that a little plug. but yeah, you can achieve all these things in your business if you just think laterally about it and you're willing to try new ways of doing business. You can do it quite well.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to work ethic, and it comes down to mindset, because a lot of people say, I don't have time. So that's why they want to outsource. So they want to jump into ads, or they want to get like a $5 virtual assistant, and then they don't want to actually manage them. That type of business owner is not going to be successful. So ones that invest in themselves, invest in their teams, take the time to invest in themselves and in their teams, but also the money as well. They don't have these limiting beliefs. They are the ones that are going to scale. They're the ones that are going to grow. And those are the ones that we want to work with, and those are the businesses that succeed. So is there anything else that you want to share with us that's jumping out at you and you go, you know what, I really want to just end today's podcast with this one juicy tip?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, so this is my advice for all business owners, right? Particularly if you're struggling. There is one product or service that you sell which is your most profitable product. It's the one that has the greatest return for the minimum amount of effort, right? Just think about what that is, right? And focus on that. Now, I call it, how do you clear a minefield? So often when you're overwhelmed, it's like you've got a minefield in front of you, and if you don't get to the other side, then, you've got problems, right? And what the military teach you to do is you don't roll the blanket back. You don't get your minesweeper and clear them all. You actually just make a narrow lane through the minefield, right? And then just a narrow lane that just you can fit, a human body can fit through, and then get to the other side and then widen the lane, right? So that metaphor in your business, don't try and fix everything. Just fix one thing.
Yeah, get one thing right.
Get one thing pumping.
Yep.
And from start to finish.
Yep.
From marketing, ads and content and whatever you're doing up front, all the way through to close the sale, deliver the product, money in the bank. Get that right. So don't think funnel, think straw, right? Initially, right? And so if you're going to get one thing right, what are you going to get right? You're going to get your most profitable product right. And just spend the time and map it out. And you've already sold it. So go back and say, what is the process to sell this thing? And then optimize the, can I swear, crap out of each of those steps and focus on nothing else and say, okay, how can I sell 5 of these a month? How can I sell 10 of these a month? How can I sell 20 of these a month, right? And once you work that out, your money problems will stop and your business will have heaps of money. The problem with some people is they've got entrepreneurial ADHD, and I suffer from it, and maybe they don't like selling that product, maybe they don't enjoy it. Too bad. Harden up, just do your job. And because if you don't, you'll fail, right?
Yeah.
Or you'll struggle harder. Just focus on that. Once you've got that pumping, then you've got to ask yourself, do I just make that pump more, or do I start adding other product lines to it? But I think that's the best advice. And there's the battlefield survival technique, right? Which it says, when you find yourself in trouble, you can only do one thing at a time. So ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do right now that'll most improve my situation, right? So let's say in the military context, you're out patrolling on the battlefield, and then bang, enemy, the bushes erupt and you've walked into an ambush, and so you hit the deck and you're overwhelmed and you don't know how you're going to survive. You just ask yourself, what's one thing I could do right now that'll make my situation better? And it might be like, okay, get out of where I am right now and crawl into that ditch over there, where I'm below ground and they can't shoot me. Execute. Stop thinking, execute that. Yeah. Then ask yourself the question again. Okay, what's the one thing I can do right now that'll best improve my situation? Get on the radio, call in some help. What's the one thing? Return fire, throw some grenades at them, try and run out, and while they're distracted, run out of the ambush area, So in business, you're overwhelmed. What's the one thing you can do right now? And that's going to best improve your situation. And generally it is sell your most profitable product. Don't borrow money. Don't go trying to, cut all the crap out of your life.
Don't gamble on ads.
Cut all the distractions and sell the product.
Don't get a virtual assistant.
Yeah.
if you're not selling it.
Just sell your most profitable product. And do you know what? Everyone's got about 100 people they know, like, and trust, and who know, like, and trust them. And think of that, all those people who already know, like, and trust you, and just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And say, hey, don't know if this is a fit for you or not.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty passionate about it, and I want to talk to you about this thing I've got, And at the very least, will you just listen to me?
Yeah. And again, it's not
Yeah.
selling, it's serving. So when you come
Right.
from a serving mentality as opposed to a selling mentality, it's delivered in a much more less spammy kind of way, right?
Yep.
So thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, our audience knows a little bit about my story, and I'm so grateful that, when I came from South Africa, came to Australia, and I will share this now because it's so relevant to what Damo said, is that I came here and then my husband at the time lost his job twice, and I taught myself marketing and grew a 6-figure business within 5 years with no ads, with no support, with no financial. I was literally on the bones of my ass, and by the time I actually got the 6-figure business, single then with 3 children. And I'm so grateful because I never had Centrelink. I never had anybody to lend me money. So I had to have what I did work, which means I had to get that one thing right. I had to get that one thing right.
Yep.
So I'm so grateful because I didn't have an out. And I feel like sometimes here in Australia, because people have an out, they don't really just need to feed the family or whatever. They just want to have more money, but it's not a need. They keep looking for other things and they just keep grabbing at straws and, whereas they don't get that one thing right. So I absolutely love what you said. It's my journey. It's what I did. And it's what I teach right now, just get that one thing right. Please don't frickin' rebrand if it's not working. Don't throw that entire funnel out. it's not your brand. There's just a kink in the hose somewhere, kink in the straws. So we just want to find where that is. And just get that one ththing right. But the other thing there that I did is, because, how did I grow this business and then go on to another business? And, people are in awe of it. And I tell you, because I just want to inspire you that you can do it too. If I did it, little old me did it, you can do it. But the other thing I did was I wasn't disrespectful to the process. When I lacked a skill, I went and learnt it. I invested in myself. When I then was lacking in support, I went and got support. I didn't go looking for support because I wanted somebody else to do the hard stuff. I did the hard stuff. I did the hard stuff first.
Yep.
So, business can be hard. Do the hard stuff. Get the support when you need it, the right support. But you've got to learn that position first before you start going and trying to get other help. For sure. All right, Damien, so where can people connect with you?
Well, DamienPatterson.com with the extra I, DAIMIEN, and 2 T's in Patterson. Also, property investment companies, integritypropertyinvestment.com, smartworkforcesolutions.com.au for the outsourcing to South Africa. And but DamienPatterson.com is fine. And, weddings, parties, anything. I love to speak on stage because I love paying forward. When I started, a lot of people helped me. So I love paying forward the help, and I like to go to business conferences and speak. But I also coach 5 people at any one time because I'm running this empire at the same time. But I like to sort of just say to people, look, I'm actually doing it. I've done it. I've built businesses and sold them for money. I've, running all these businesses myself. So there's a lot of business coaches out there that have never even run a business, and it's like, I've met a few of them. So what's your business? Oh, this is my business. Okay, how many people you got working? Oh, just me. Okay. Did you were you the general manager of someone else's business? Oh, no, I used to do, I'm like, okay, maybe not, So I'm really passionate about helping people, but I can only help so many people, so 5's the limit. Yeah. And I've got a few at the moment, but I do have a vacancy at the moment. So it's always worth checking in if you want to,
Yeah, awesome. So get the support that you need. So that's awesome. So Meaningful Marketing Podcast. Thank you so much to our listeners for listening in. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like, subscribe, rate us. If you're on YouTube as well, please make sure that you subscribe and comment below and follow us. You can also access free resources and book a call with me on online business marketing. You're listening to another episode of the Meaningful Marketing Podcast with Damien.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for listening in. Meaningful Marketing is all about you making your marketing meaningful. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. But subscribing means that you won't miss out on future episodes all about marketing and motivation. Stay inspired, stay focused, and make your marketing meaningful.